Good morning. I'm pleased to declare the 2018 commencement for the Quinnipiac University School of Law officially open. Would you please stand for the national anthem, which will be performed by Melissa Gagne, class of 2018.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does
I could ask you to remain standing. Remain standing, please. If you could remain standing for the invocation, which will be delivered by Colby Putnam, Protestant chaplain.
Good morning. As I pray according to my tradition, I invite all of you to pray alongside me according to yours. Lord, as we begin this ceremony, we give you thanks for Quinnipiac University, for its faculty and staff. We thank you for the privilege of education. We thank you for the friends and family gathered today. And thank you for these graduates whose hard work has brought them to this day of celebration. May the words of wisdom spoken today bear fruit in lifetimes of seeking peace, love, justice, and truth. We ask for your blessing over this ceremony and your provision for their futures. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please be seated. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the members of our platform party, which consists of our speaker and honorary degree recipient, whom we will meet in a few moments, university administrators, and the deans and faculty of the School of Law. It's now my privilege to introduce Jennifer Brown, Dean of the School of Law.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the law commencement. I want to say a particular welcome to all the mothers who are here. It's wonderful to share Mother's Day with you. It is now my honor to present Dr. John Leahy, the president of Quinnipiac University, and I want to take a moment and make sure that everyone knows the important role that President Leahy played in bringing the law school from the University of Bridgeport to Quinnipiac University, how grateful we are for that great work and the great work that he has done during his time here at Quinnipiac. President Leahy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to all of you on this wonderful day of joy and celebration. To our law school graduates, I want to extend my heartiest congratulations to each and every one of you. You should all feel very proud of your accomplishments and well-deserved of the recognition you are receiving today. The class of 2018 is arguably the best ever to come through the Quinnipiac School of Law. Actually, you are the best ever to come through the Quinnipiac. I think they inserted arguably just because it's a law commencement. But you are indeed the best, and I've seen them all, as Jennifer has said, since 1992, and you are indeed an extremely impressive group of young people. Many of you have accepted offers from prestigious law firms already and judicial clerkships with some of the best minds in legal education. One of today's graduates, Lisa DeCrescente, served as this year's editor-in-chief of the Quinnipiac Law Review. I enjoyed working with Lisa in her role as a member of the board of the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Service to Students. And I'm pleased to share that Lisa will be working at the law firm of MacArthur and English in Hartford. Another of today's students, Kristen Kiriati, will be clerking for the Connecticut Supreme Court after graduation. Other prestigious clerkships include 3 graduates, Jim Riley, Nicole Reel, and Samantha Oden, clerking for the Connecticut Appellate Court. I also want to recognize your Student Bar Association president, James Demetriatis, who provided, thank you. James provided outstanding leadership and made significant contributions in representing students' concerns. James will be working in the employment law at Sabatini and Associates. The Quinnipiac School of Law is advancing both in terms of academic quality and national recognition. These achievements are clearly a consequence of the exceptional work of our law faculty and leadership of Dean Jennifer Brown and our Dean of Admissions, Adam Barrett. In the final analysis, though, A law school, like any other school, will be judged best by its graduates. And so, members of the class of 2018, we are depending on you to make the best use possible of the education you have received at the Quinnipiac University School of Law. You have already left a significant mark on our School of Law, and I have no doubt you will leave an even greater mark on the world that awaits you. Again, my congratulations and best wishes to each and every one of you.
Thank you, President Leahy, and thank you again for the way you've supported us and challenged us over the years. I actually was thinking about this commencement today and about how it marks, I think, the time that President Leahy will be with us at the School of Law commencement as president of the university as he prepares to retire after more than 25 years of service to Quinnipiac University. And, you know, I really hope that you feel proud of the law school that you brought to this university. And it made me particularly happy that this class, the class of 2018, is the class that is here to celebrate with you today. Because as I thought about it, there are at least 3 ways in which this class bears a striking resemblance to John Leahy. First, you value engagement. Second, you understand that law matters. And the third resemblance I'll say more about in a moment. First of all, anyone who knows John Leahy knows that he values engagement, even constructive conflict, in an effort to make something better. And class of 2018, you have brought that sense of engagement and constructive conflict at times to us here at the law school. We like to joke in the administration about every year we do the law school survey of student satisfaction and engagement, the LESSE survey that you all will remember. And we like to joke that you are the class most dissatisfied with your law school. And I've sometimes said, you know, we love the class of 2018, but they don't always love us back. But now I've realized how wrong that is. It's precisely in your dissatisfaction, your high standards, your demand that we do more and do better, that you demonstrate, I think, a greater love for your law school. And in that, you and John Leahy bear a striking resemblance. There's a second fundamental point in common between you, the class of 2018, and John Leahy, the president who made the law school as we know it possible. You both understand in a very deep and abiding way that law matters. John Leahy saw that law matters in healthcare, business, innovation, and communications. Think of the Affordable Care Act, Dodd-Frank, patent, trademark, First Amendment law, copyright. And therefore, John Leahy understood a university with strong programs in nursing, health sciences, business, engineering, and communications can and will be made even stronger by a school of law. I have heard him say on more than one occasion, a great university needs a great law school. And you, the class of 2018, also know that law matters. And law matters in the events that have surrounded your 3 or 4 years in the law school. While our national conversation becomes increasingly polarized and politicized, you have reached out to each other to engage in civil discourse. Your stepped-up activities focused on diversity and inclusion in the legal profession, on increasing awareness of poverty and its devastating impacts on access to justice, on the relationship between police and the communities they serve and protect, on emotionally charged questions like human trafficking, immigration, gun safety, and religious liberty. And you have done this together. You know, there aren't a lot of law schools where the president of the Federalist Society and the president of the American Constitution Society are friends, and where the members of those organizations are friends, and they come to each other's events, and they support the conversations, the events that are hosted by the other organization. And at Quinnipiac, this happens. I think it happens because you know that law matters and that we, as lawyers, must start and sustain conversations that matter about law, its goals, and its consequences. There's a final point of resemblance between you, the class of 2018, and John Leahy, the president who made this law school possible. I don't know if all of you know about John Leahy's dedication to a very specific piece of Irish history, the Great Hunger. Quinnipiac has a museum that commemorates and documents this, an art collection that communicates its heartbreak and horror. When John Leahy served as the Grand Marshal of the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade, he set that year its theme to focus on the Great Hunger and its relationship to the tremendous migration of people from Ireland to the US in the mid-19th century. And now, when John Leahy speaks to Irish American groups, he points out to them the similarity between their families' stories and the stories of today's immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. This class of 2018, too, has come of age in a time of change and even crisis for immigrants to this country and in this country. Many of you were born outside the United States. Even more of you were raised by parents who were born outside the US. I'm guessing that an even larger number of you graduates could point to a grandparent or a great-grandparent who came to the US from another land seeking opportunity or security or freedom. Law matters in this conversation. And because you know this is true, class of 2018, my prayer is that you will bring your dissatisfaction, your engagement, your belief in the importance of law, and your love for our community and this country to your work as lawyers, striving always to make us and the law better. And now we turn to a tradition we have at commencement. We recall your 1L orientation and the oath of professionalism you took upon entering law school, and we move to a new oath of professionalism and ask you to renew your commitment to professionalism in your lives as lawyers. So I'd like to ask you to stand, just the class, and again, raise your right hand if you're comfortable doing so, and read with me the professionalism oath. I am leaving the academic community of Quinnipiac University School of Law and embarking on a professional career. As a law student and future lawyer, I understand that the study and practice of law carry both privileges and responsibilities. I willingly accept the responsibilities that accompany those privileges and responsibilities that the faculty, the bench, the bar, and the public entrust to me. I promise to do my utmost to adhere to the ideals of the legal profession and to uphold the highest standards of professional honesty and ethical practice during my career. I will remember that my actions reflect not only on me, but upon Quinnipiac University School of Law my fellow alumni, and the legal profession. To strengthen the legal community, I will conduct myself with dignity and civility and will treat all of my colleagues with kindness and respect. I will conduct my professional and personal life as to uphold the values and standards that are expressed in the rules of professional conduct and the traditions of the legal profession. Thank you. You may be seated. It is now my honor to invite Stephen Bright, Jennifer Herbst, Mark Thompson, and John Leahy to come forward.
Stephen Bright, in your 35 years with the Southern Center for Human Rights, you pursued justice for those facing capital punishment and for people too poor to afford legal representation. You argued and won 4 capital cases before the United States Supreme Court that involved racial discrimination in the composition of juries. Your work with the center was spotlighted in the documentary Finding for Life in the Death Belt. Other areas that have drawn your scholarly attention include conditions and inhumane practices in prisons, right to counsel, judicial independence, and sentencing. As a professor of practice at Georgia State College of Law, your vast legal knowledge is of great value to the next generation of lawyers. You have also taught at Yale Law School and Georgetown Law. The American Bar Association presented you with its Thurgood Marshall Award, and the Daily Law Report, Georgia's legal newspaper, named you Lawyer of the Year in 2017 for your success in the Supreme Court and in the pursuit of justice. Harvard Law professor Charles Ogletree once remarked that he doesn't think there will ever be another person committed to ending the death penalty with the same vigor and the same commitment as you. In recognition of your impressive legal career and your willingness to serve as the voice for those whose path to justice is threatened, Quinnipiac University is pleased to confer upon you a Doctor of Laws degree this 13th day of May, 2018.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations, Stephen.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to call to the podium our commencement speaker, Stephen Bright.
Thank you very much, Dean Brown. I am deeply honored and grateful to receive this honorary degree and to have this opportunity to make a few remarks about the opportunities and challenges that are ahead. It's particularly an honor to talk to the very best class that's ever graduated from this law school. I want to thank and congratulate Dean Lee on his 3 decades, 2.5 of leadership and bringing this law school to the university. I also want to thank my dear friend Dean Brown, who I've known for a long time. Once before she was here, she was in Georgia at Emory Law School, and she signed an amicus brief filed on behalf of a young man, Tony Amadeo, who was on death row in Georgia. It was about prosecutorial misconduct that had taken place in that case. And I'm happy to report today that not only is Mr. Amadeo no longer under a sentence of death, as he had been, but he's now home with his family in Texas as a useful and productive member of our society. Most of all, though, I want to congratulate you, each and every one of you. I want to also congratulate your mothers. It's Mother's Day, and what a Mother's Day gift. What a Mother's Day gift you have given to your mothers here today. But not only your mothers, your fathers, your relatives, your families, your partners, your friends, all the people who at some time in your life, whether it be a short time or a long time, have stood with you, have mentored you, have encouraged you, have helped you through that tough time. All of those people, congratulations to all of those people on this special day. I hope that each and every one of you realize you didn't get here alone. You got here with the help of all of those people that I mentioned. And you will depend on as you go forward. Colleagues, assistants, paralegals, other people. Appreciate them, respect them, treat them well, and never miss the opportunity to let them know how much your success depends upon them and their being a part of your team. It's a team that you put together to go forward in this profession. I was glad to hear President Leahy talk about those who are going to courts, appeals, and so forth. You know, when I was sitting where you're sitting, I was wondering if I could ever get a job. I don't know if anybody's thinking about that today, but I had sort of thought, you know, I was going to law school to fill some great need, and then when I got there, it didn't seem like I was needed at all. What a discouraging thing. But I learned, as all of you will learn, that everything changes when you pass the bar. You'll be admitted to the judicial branch of government. You will be a part of one of the three branches of government. It's a privilege and it's a power, and it carries with it responsibilities. And I'll get back to that in a moment. But first, and most practically, it helps you get a job. I want to tell you that. And this law school has prepared you for that. It's prepared you to be a lawyer. It's prepared you to be a part of one branch of government. And that also prepares you to take and pass the bar examination and move on in your career. You will find your way. You will find, maybe not right at the outset, maybe there will be some missteps, but I will tell you, you will find your way. And if you are fortunate, it will be a calling that will keep you inspired and energized and working throughout your whole life in the law. The privilege of being a lawyer is that you can provide a helping hand to all sorts of people and lift them up in ways large and small. In over 40 years of practice of law, I've been amazed at what a difference lawyers make. People win their cases, get the solution that they're looking for with lawyers, and they can't even get, some of them can't even get into court without a lawyer. Clarence Earl Gideon was denied a lawyer when he went on trial in Panama City, Florida. He was convicted of breaking and entering, and he was sent to prison. And while he was there, he wrote a very crisp, concise petition, just 5 pages long, to the Supreme Court of the United States. And he said it was wrong, it was unconstitutional, that he had to go to trial without a lawyer. The Supreme Court agreed with him. The case is Gideon versus Wainwright. And when he went back to Panama City, and he was represented by a lawyer, he was acquitted. Anthony Lewis wrote in the New York Times the next day, the difference in the two trials was that this time Mr. Gideon had a lawyer. And you see right there. National Public Radio recently described an asylum seeker who did not have a lawyer, who showed up on time for her hearing, but unfortunately, her hearing in immigration court, but unfortunately, she went to the wrong courthouse. It would seem to be a very small, understandable mistake that any person could make, particularly if the instructions weren't very clear and the person had no familiarity with the system. But in immigration court, it was a disaster. When she got to the right courtroom, the judge had already found that she failed to appear and had issued an order of deportation for both her and her son. She tried to get the judge to hear her case, but the judge, no, you weren't here at the time you're supposed to be here, and you're out. Notice, this is not seeking justice. This is law. This is law. This is what courts do. In immigration courts, but also in state and federal courts, they avoid justice based on some technicality, based on some failure to follow some procedural requirement. And that's why people need lawyers in all kinds of cases, and that's why lawyers need to know these procedures so they never get tripped up on them. And that, you can imagine, what a difference a lawyer would have made if this woman had had one. Just getting to the right courtroom would be the difference between a deportation order and a decision on the merits. And of course, that's before you even get to the question of advocacy. Once you're in the right courtroom before the right judge and a lawyer is advocating your case, those seeking asylums are 5 times more likely to win their case when they're represented by a lawyer than when they're not. So getting clients to the right courtroom and advocating once you get there are among the many ways you will help your future clients. But I want to talk about a few less obvious ways. You will listen to them. You will advise them. You will negotiate for them. You will tell their stories. Cases arise out of conflicting stories. Statutes are crafted. Policy is made out of stories and conflicting stories. It's out of what Dean Brown was talking about with this engagement, constructive criticism. Individuals, governments, and businesses will bring to you problems. They'll ask for your counsel, and they'll count on you to present the case, to tell a story that will help them get to the result they seek, and hopefully the right result. Tomorrow, some of you may already have provided stories to the Rules Committee in support of the proposed amendment, which will be heard tomorrow, about admitting DACA law graduates to the Connecticut bar. Stories are compelling. I understand one person graduating here today is a compelling example. Compelling example of why that rule should be adopted. As a lawyer, you need to listen to your clients, to your witnesses, to people who can give you a different perspective so you have a thorough understanding of what's going on. There's a tremendous temptation when you're a lawyer to want to show right from the jump, you're in charge. I'm in charge. I'm going to talk. I'm going to do it. But you're not going to learn anything from that. And you want to hear people out and hear them as long as you can and talk to as many people as you can so you can tell their stories well, so you know the depth of what they have to be represented. You don't want your client, I'll just say as an aside, you don't want your client to tell people that you don't really know their story, but you'll get your facts straight eventually. That's not a good practice. I just offer that as an aside. No particular reason. But I also want to say this, don't ever underestimate the value of counseling a client. People are dropped into the legal system like the asylum seeker I talked about. They have no idea what's going on. It's like being dropped into a foreign land. Everybody's speaking a different language or different customs. What does this mean? I had to speak to my Yale class right towards the end of the semester, William Neal Moore, a man who spent 16 years on death row in Georgia. And he told about how when he was sentenced to death, the judge said that on a certain day he'd be taken to a certain place and a certain amount of electricity would be run through his body and he would be electrocuted until he was dead, and may God have mercy on your soul. Now, the lawyer never told him that there was an automatic appeal. There was no chance that a month later he would be executed on the day the judge had given. So as the day came closer and closer, Mr. Moore thought he was going to be executed that day, next week, in a few days, tomorrow, today. The day came. And to his surprise, he wasn't put to death. Can you imagine the value of a lawyer who just sits down and counsels his client and says, here's where you are, this is what happened today, but there's this stage, and here's how long we're going to litigate your case, and here's what may or may not happen? Counseling people. It's a critically important thing. Sometimes you're not going to get the right result for your client, but you're going to help them understand this system. You're going to be their guide through this system. You can't always find an answer, or at least the answer that the client may want. And you may have to negotiate. You may have to work something out where your client doesn't get everything he or she wants, but at the other hand, doesn't lose everything completely. The vast majority of cases, both civil cases and criminal cases, are settled. Neither side gets all it wants, but each side finds an acceptable solution. And there will be those times, and I have had them, I have 5 times, accompanied clients to the execution chamber after everything we did in their case, after all the work, all the briefing, all the arguments to all the courts, did not prevent them from being executed. There are times you just can't achieve an acceptable solution for your clients. And the obligation of lawyers, at least my suggestion to you, is that our obligation in that situation is not unlike that of doctors, who first have a duty to cure, but failing that have an obligation to treat, and always, always have an obligation to comfort, to speak to their clients with empathy, with respect, hold up their dignity. That's the least we can do in every single case. One prominent doctor wrote that the most meaningful experience he had as a doctor and as a human being was helping people understand what medicine could not do for them. And one of your responsibilities on occasion will be to tell people what the law cannot do for them. Kindness and compassion, as Dean Brown talked about, are critically important in representing people. In your practice of law, it will help you immensely if you don't take yourself too seriously. I've been extremely fortunate to have a lot of people around me at all times who make fun of me constantly, who tease me constantly, and who everything I do in court, no matter how dramatic I think it is or how much it ought to be up there with Addison's Fitch, they can find some way to make fun of it. It's been the best thing that's going for me in my life. I've laughed a lot. I've taken my work very seriously. You can't help but take your work seriously. You have to. But don't take yourself too seriously. Stand back. In the work I do, I look at the absurdity of what I deal with so often, and I can laugh at that. I want to encourage you, too, not to be afraid to say, I don't know. Again, lawyers want to sort of take charge and show they know everything, but I will tell you, there are going to be times in the next few years when you're a lawyer and you will not know, or you won't be sure, or you'll have a somewhat questionable, unsure knowledge of the answer. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. You'll learn, and then you'll know next time, or you'll know another time. Once you do this, you'll find how liberating it is. People come in my office, and they want me to tell them how to solve a problem. I don't know. You guys figure it out. Come back and tell me when you do. You'll be surprised how easily it comes. Let me just say a couple of things at the end here, which is, one, your clients are not just those who retain you and pay you. It includes the integrity of the law itself. Lawyers are trustees of one branch of government, this branch of government that you enter. Lawyers have a monopoly on providing access to the legal system. And it provides lawyers with the opportunity to ration legal services to those who can afford it, and to set a price for them and sell them only to those people. But of course, the purpose of the legal system is to serve the public interest by resolving disputes in a civilized manner for both sides in the case. The Supreme Court has said in several cases there can be no equal justice when the justice a person gets depends upon the amount of money they have. Of course, this is aspirational. We all know this, right? The kind of justice you get depends very much on the amount of money you have. The amount of money you have will decide in many, many cases whether you'll even have a lawyer to go to court with you. So we have a long way to go with regard to that. And so one of your responsibilities, these privileges and responsibilities that you took an oath to uphold in professionalism, will be to take the law as a client and make sure that the law is available to all those who need it, that people don't lose cases because they don't have lawyers. Increasingly, that's a strategy that people have. I think it's very offensive for winning cases. Keep the other guy from having a lawyer, and of course it's like shooting ducks in a barrel in most cases. All of you, regardless of what you do in your life in the law, you may be at a law firm, you may be at a business, you may be at a small firm, a large firm, a prosecutor's office, some other government agency, but no matter what, your responsibility is to ensure access to the legal system for those who cannot afford it, and assuring that cases are not decided because people can't afford a lawyer. And I want to say one last thing that is just important to say and ask you to think about and take action on as we look to the challenges ahead of the legal system. And one thing that undermines greatly the credibility and the legitimacy of our legal system. We have to recognize that justice often depends not only on the amount of money you have, but also on the race of the victim, of the defendant, of the witnesses. If you have some free time, I'm going to give you a little travel advice here. Maybe you take a trip before you take or after you take the bar, but before you start working. That's a nice time. You have a little time. I want to suggest you go to Montgomery, Alabama, of all places. 2 weeks ago, a memorial and a museum opened in Montgomery. The National Memorial for Peace and Justice is a remarkable memorial to 4,400 men, women, and children, most of them African American, who were lynched between 1877 and 1950. Nearby is the Legacy Museum, which takes you through the American experience from slavery to convict leasing, to lynching and other kinds of racial terrorism, to Jim Crow, and to where we are today, mass incarceration. These museums, this museum and monument, are long overdue. And they're much like museums and monuments that you have to the Holocaust in Germany and to apartheid in South Africa. The importance of coming to grips with our past, acknowledging how it affects our present, and figuring out how we can do to eliminate the influence of racial bias in the future. Every judge, every legislator, and every lawyer ought to go through this museum. There's no one like it anywhere else. It shows how the law has been misused. We must confront the truth. We must acknowledge its impact that it is having on us today and seek reconciliation. Thank you very much. There's much to be said, not today, but it's something I hope you, like access to the courts, will focus on as you practice law and do what you can to change. And so let us go forth today and let us highly resolve that this nation shall have a new birth of freedom, that we will walk out of the dark shadows of inequality and racial prejudice and into the bright sunshine of equality, civil rights, and human rights for every person. Good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you for those wonderful remarks, Stephen. I now would like to call to the podium Associate Dean Neil Feigenson and to take the opportunity to thank him for serving as Associate Dean for the past 3 years. When I became Dean, I sort of started asking the faculty to step up and serve as Associate Dean in sort of rotating shifts. And this is a lot to ask of a person who loves to be in the classroom and who loves to do his scholarship, and to ask him to take on the administrative load of being Associate Dean, which is considerable. And Dean Feigenson has done it with grace and precision and care, and we all have a debt of gratitude to him for that. So thank you.
Would the Hooding professors please come forward? Mary Ferrari, Alexander Micklejohn, Brad Saxton. Marshals, please direct the candidates for the Juris Doctor degree to the platform. James Nicholas Dimitriadis. Melissa Kovitz Gagne. Maria Alexandra Arroyo. Jonathan R. Aubin. Maritza Harris. Denya C. Perez. Amanda Elizabeth Smallhorn. Andrew B. F. Carnabucci. Jonathan Lucas Conandreas. John Thomas Zalin II. Jonathan Richard Formicella. Alessandria DeSapio. Patrick Cullen Roy. Angelique Nicole Torres. Lisa Catherine De Crescente. Kelly Ann Beauvais. Nicole Mary Reel. James John Riley. Taylor Abraham Francis Wolfe. Spurgeon Green IV. Tai Chai. Brian Daniel Ward. Nathan S. Rosadini. Nicole Ann Fluckiger. Nicole O'Neill. Angeline Panagoulias. Alyssa M. Rizaldi. Laura Glogowski. Jacqueline D. Discala. Richard Thomas Lorico, to be hooded by his father, Richard Lorico, Jr., class of 1986. Charles Hobie Mensah. Caitlin R. Pfeiffer. Kaylee Elizabeth Hinkle. Jessica Dolores Solotruck. Kelsey Lynn Dumond, to be hooded by her mother, Lisa Dumond, class of 2010. Zachary Michelle. Michael R. Fierick. Dylan Hall Wingard. Emily E. Cadman. Evan W. Dorney. Jonathan Tyler Bach. Declan Joseph Murray. Andrew Stewart Mudgett. Rosanna R. Tamam. Courtney A. L. Shields. Eric Gabriel Hernandez. Allison Riley Gelati. Amanda L. Lazak. Caitlin R. Day. Richard J. Azarito III. Christina Anna Carabetta. Jenna T. Cutler. Joseph Hunter Parda. Michael D. Edwards. Dallas N. Vargas. Ariel M. Smith. Samantha Lynn Oden. Deanna Lynn McWeeny. Kristen Ann Kiriati. Rita N. Kaway. Mary Jessica Simon. Samantha E. Gorley. Jessica L. Esteves. Stephanie F. Buckley. Elena M. Lewis. Brianna Nicole Williams. Suanne Sandra Wong. Denisha Mokhtan. Catherine E. Covett. Christina L. Wilson. Ms. Wilson completed the intellectual property concentration, which was inadvertently omitted from yesterday's awards ceremony program. Zainab Bamidele Awalenje. Candace N. Hill. Shanna P. Hugel. Brandon Alexander Hawkins. Scott T. Donahue. Maria Lisa Vogel Short. David John Nastri. Catherine M. Tasmer. Melissa R. Smith. John Redmond O'Hara. Brian T. Canning. Mark Joseph Penny. Jeffrey R. Fisher. Gabriella Ivy Martin. Colin Joseph Ortiz. Michael Scott Rapico. Mr. President, I have the honor to present from the School of Law candidates for the degree Juris Doctor.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations to each and every one of you.
I know with this class, the hugs will continue for another 15 minutes unless I say. You may all be seated. And it is my pleasure now to introduce our student speaker, who I think, again, sort of embodies the qualities I was talking about in this class. Sometimes dissatisfied, always engaged, and always willing to do the hard work to try to make things better. So, class of 2018, your speaker, James Demetriadis.
President Leahy, Dean Brown, members of the Platform Committee, honored guests, friends, and family. Please join me in congratulating the Quinnipiac class of 2018. We did it, guys. As president of the Student Bar Association, I am honored to deliver these final remarks on behalf of my class and as we say farewell to Quinnipiac University School of Law. For nearly a year, we marked down our calendars, counted down the days to walk across this stage for our moment, our graduation from law school. But where are we going? And what kind of future will we discover there? Our answer lies, surprisingly, in the past. In August of 2015, or for some of us, 2014, we all entered law school, anxious, wide-eyed, and excited for what was about to come. We each were driven by a different reason to go to law school, but when we got here, none of us knew exactly what to expect. In our first year, we grew together, not only as people, but as friends and as a community. We all shook in fear at being cold called by Professor Marty Margulies for fear of getting a question wrong. We all hated Blackacre and wondered why anyone would want to buy a piece of property with so many encumbrances. Just why? Buy something else. And yes, we all pretended to laugh together at Professor Farrell's jokes. And yes, Professor Farrell, we do fear the Greeks, even when they're bearing gifts. And through these shared frustrations, shared laughs, and yes, even shared tears, these past few years, we grew together as a family, as classmates, and now as colleagues in law. Where we are going now comes not only from the past of who we were as classmates, but also from the past lessons imparted to us from our professors. Professors like Mary Ferrari, our wonderful professor of the year, who taught us how tax law can be fun law. Although I didn't take the class, so I'm not sure. Still not convinced. But I love her anyways. Or Professor Cooper, our perennial fourth place professor of the year, 7 years running, who's a man with a quick wit and a knack for getting down to fundamentals, teaching us what we need to know, how we need to know it, and when we need to know it, and nothing else matters. But I would be remiss not to mention the passion and commitment to justice, which are the legacies of two professors which we lost during our time here at Quinnipiac Law. Professors and Dean David King and Professor Tom Ullman, men who dedicated their lives to their students' understanding of justice, and their professional pursuit of justice, mercy, and the law. These professors gave us their passion and their love of the law as by means to educate the whole lawyer, the whole student. And we thank them for that. Now with diplomas in hand, hypothetically, we face the future, a future where the law will play an integral part in all of our lives. Now, we live in a time where people want to retreat from conflict to what is safe and to what is comfortable. Not us. We will actively seek out conflict to resolve injustices. We will discover what is uncomfortable and address it. And we will seek to remedy any injustice and find equity for all people. Equipped with a Quinnipiac education, we know the importance of the work we must do. We will discover that with the support of our colleagues here in this room, with idealism, integrity, and honesty, we can give our own individual meaning and purpose to the education we've received. To my fellow graduates of the Quinnipiac Law Class of 2018, I can't wait to see what we will build together. Thank you.
Thank you, James. It's now my pleasure and my honor to announce or to welcome to the podium the Professor of the Year, our much beloved Mary Ferrari.
All right. I got to get all my papers together. President Leahy, Provost Thompson, Dean Brown, members of the Platform Party, distinguished colleagues, honored guests, and most especially you guys, the members of the class of 2018, this speech is for you, so I apologize to everyone out there if you missed some of the obscure references that I might make. I do want to recognize the mothers and fathers in attendance today. And I'd also like to give a tip of my cap to my own mom and dad, who used to watch religiously this ceremony every year and count the number of people that I hooded. Oh, you hooded more than Sandy this year. So they are both gone now, but I hope they're viewing this via the heavenly streaming service. Because if not for the fact that they were both born on April 15th, I may not have had a career teaching federal income tax. So, Mary and Larry. I am just beyond honored that you chose me to speak to you today on this momentous occasion. But first things first, let me remind those of you to whom I paid bribes to win this honor that bribes are includable in gross income of the payee, and they are not deductible by the payor. So be looking for a 1099 in January. Also, I have to say that Professor Farrell has been agitating to have my selection as Professor of the Year overturned because I have an R after my name, which in this case means retired. He thinks it should only be for full-time faculty people. I've had to remind him several times that I won the popular vote. But I should probably be sharing this honor with E.T., who I think is watching from North Haven. Because I understand that he taught many of you how to use a calculator to compute percentages right before the income tax exam. And I also have heard that old professors never retire. My cousin just told me this recently. They just lose their class, which presupposes that this old professor had class to begin with, which is debatable. So most of you are probably shocked to see me speaking coherently, that may be a stretch a little bit, at 10 in the morning, because many of you took tax and business planning on Thursday nights from 8 to 10. That's when I am at my most coherent. I called Jim Benson last year when I got my class list for income tax, and I said, there's 60 people signed up for income tax at the nighttime. And there's only, 15 or 20 in the day. You must have made a mistake. And he said, no, didn't make a mistake. They're night owls. So anyway, I've been obsessing about this talk for a month, as many of you know, because I openly talk about all of the things I'm obsessing about all the time to all of you. And originally I was going to call it the last lecture, but if you Google that, you'll find the sad story of the professor who gave what he called the last lecture soon after he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. So I decided not to call this the last lecture. Then I thought maybe I'll give them a parting seminar on the salient changes to the Internal Revenue Code as a result of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which unfortunately makes obsolete much of what you all learned last year in my tax class. C'est la vie. Tax reform has even robbed me of my clever tax sayings. Remember, may all your gains be capital and your losses be ordinary? Well, capital gains are still good, but ordinary losses ain't what they used to be. So I think it is time for me to retire. Now, there are, however, 4 universal truths that I taught you that I want to remind you to never forget. And if I ever hear one of you, when you become famous on television, say several of these things, I am haunting you. They are, it is not the IRS code. A charity is not a 501(c)(3) organization. Do not ever call an LLC a limited liability corporation, like the New York Times did recently. And don't ever, ever, ever mix your Viskies. But let's get a little serious for a few moments. Before you process from this place with your JDs, sort of, I'd like to conduct a final review session. Did you tell your parents that we would be here for 5 hours? This one's going to be short for the occasion, and I've taken a little interpretive license from a couple of foundational tax cases to express my hopes for you and maybe offer a little bit of advice. By my count, over 90% of you took federal income tax with me, or other courses, and you recall, I'm sure, and could enunciate these things right now, the three-pronged test for gross income from Glenshaw Glass versus Commissioner. Accessions to wealth, clearly realized, over which taxpayer has complete dominion. So, first, I wish you many and varied accessions to wealth over your future careers and lives, both material and, maybe more importantly, non-material. Whether or not you make it to the top tax bracket, which is now 37%, by the way, may all of you have a full, rich life comprised of fulfilling work, loving family and friends, and many, many, many great adventures. May you clearly realize always who you are and the value you add to the world as you move through life. Be present in your life as it unfolds. Don't just let it happen to you. And strive to exercise complete dominion over your career and life as much as you can. Be guided by your integrity always. Don't forget the smell test. It's very effective in leading you toward doing the right thing. So where do you go from here? You'll leave here today very well prepared. All of us have told you this, so it must be true, for a successful legal career. But you can't know where you're going to land in the future. 41 years ago, when I was sitting where you are, I would not in my wildest imagination have dreamed that today I would be addressing a group of graduates to whom I taught principles of taxation and business. When I was sitting in your seats, I had never even seen a balance sheet. So you just never know where you're going to end up. You no doubt remember the inspiring but doctrinally enigmatic case of Welch v. Helvering. Yeah? In which Justice Cardozo wrestled with the problem of distinguishing an ordinary from an extraordinary expense. One deductible, the other not. This was the guy who paid the bills for his bankrupt employer, Battle Creek, Michigan. I have a whole backstory for this guy. Justice Cardozo came up with a not very useful legal test for distinguishing an ordinary from an extraordinary expense. But the test he came up with is one that I find an inspiration for our lives. He said, quote, "One struggles in vain for any verbal formula that will supply a ready touchstone. The standard set up by the statute is not a rule of law, it is rather a way of life. Life in all its fullness must supply the answer to the riddle." So as you leave us today contemplating the riddle of your future, please embrace life in all its fullness. And by doing so, you will all have extraordinary, not ordinary lives. Now, before I go, I have not written a limerick, but I have drafted up a little musical retrospective of your law school career. And Apologies to Ms. Gagne. This is going to be more like a Roseanne performance. I've summarized your law school experience in a couple of paragraphs, and this is to the tune of My Favorite Things from The Sound of Music by Rodgers and Hammerstein. So I brought my pitch pipe. Not that it's going to do me much good, but here we go. First year we scared you with Civ Pro and contracts, negligence duty, and one Mrs. Paul's graph. Property, fee tails, mens rea in crim. What kind of hell did you find yourself in? 2L, we worked you, we made you take 4 cores. UCCT&E blitzing through biz orgs. Journals, mock trial, and moot court all at once. Evidence, ad law, and tax drove you nuts. Once also rhymes with dunce, but I decided not to use that one. They say that we bore you with 3L electives, but you were resourceful and had your objectives. Clinics and externships and jobs for pay. Ready to walk out and practice today. But the bar looms. Do not feel doomed. Follow this advice. MF says that if you just RTFC, you're all gonna be all right. Now it's farewell. Hope your life's swell. Don't forget the cue. My congratulations to you as I say, it's your graduation day. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Professor Ferrari. And now I'd like to introduce Deirdre McGinnis, a member of the class of 1987, an alumna of this law school, who will come to welcome you to the community of alums of Quinnipiac Law.
Thank you, Dean Brown and President Leahy, for asking me to participate today on behalf of the alumni. I'm not going to sing the tassel toss. If I can please ask the graduates to rise. It is my honor to stand before you as a member of the class of 1987. I invite you to move your tassel to the left of your cap. This simple act signifies your transition from student to alumnus and the continuation of your unique and meaningful lifelong relationship with Quinnipiac. Quinnipiac gave me the tools and the direction to find my path to practice my passion. Law matters. I hope you all find your path and also have a bit of fun, too. I'm especially pleased to have you all join us as fellow alumni. Happy Mother's Day, Mom, and congratulations.
All right, before I reintroduce Colby Putnam, who will deliver the benediction, I have a few announcements. Only the platform party will recess out. Our graduates and families can stay or proceed to the Rocky Top Student Center next door for a reception. And there is transportation for anyone who needs assistance in getting over to the Student Center. Once outside, you'll see signs on the left. And now I ask you all to stand. And it is my privilege to ask Colby Putnam, Protestant chaplain, to please come forward to deliver the benediction.
Would you join me in prayer? Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.